If you're interested in comic book conservation, please join us on Facebook at the Comic Book Conservation Community, where we have a gathering of experts in the industry, and you can ask all of your questions that you need to know about what you need to do to conserve and preserve these beautiful works of art. Please come join us every Sunday night at 8:35 Eastern Standard Time. You can find Dr. Paul from Liberty Hill Comics, Phantom Phil from Phantom Comic Studios, and myself, Captain Larry from Flying L Comics. We talk about everything comic conservation, so please feel free to ask any question you would like. You can find us at Liberty Hill Comics on YouTube and Flying L Comics on YouTube. Well, here's a real treat. This showed up today in the mail. Marvel Mystery Comics number 18. It features Human Torch and Toro, the Angel, and the Vision. So anyway, this is a 1.5 grade. Let's get a close-up look at this label here. It says most interior wraps are completely split with brittle pages. So let's take a look at the CGC grading label on that and see what this looks like. So what we're looking at is a 1.5 brittle pages, as we said. It was graded in 2012. So I'm not sure what we're going to find once we crack this open. It is from April 1941. It's Timely Comics. It is pre-war. So it is an Alex Schomburg cover. Full page ad for Submariner Comics number 1. That's pretty nice. But the grader's note says interior multiple wraps completely split. So what we're going to do, and I'm looking at this this poor label here. I don't know if you guys could see it. It's all wavy inside there you go. Now you can see it. It's all wavy inside here. So the cover looks great. So if it's completely split on the interiors, I see some staple rust here on both of those. The back looks great, actually. So here's what we're going to do. This was graded, 13 years ago, 14 years ago. So we're going to go ahead and crack this out, and we're going to do our normal conservation treatment on this. We are going to put together every one of these pages. So let's see what it looks like and see what we're getting into. I'm expecting a real mess. So join me. Okay, we are ready to take this out of its slab. We've got our handy snap-on comic book removal tool. So this is an older slab, so it's going to have some gaps usually on the sides. So let me see. Yep, there's one here. So what I'm going to do here is slide this in, and what we're looking for is that pop. Yeah, hear that? There we go. I'm getting around the corner here. And we just kind of keep prying this open. So now, if I can get this loose here, this is where they actually put the grading label in with the slab, or inside with the inner well. So we want to save this as usual, because we are going to return this to CGC, and that will be taken out of the census, and this book will hopefully be regraded as a conserved book. So we've got this loose. Looks great. I mean, it's got a slight spine roll here. We can correct that. I'm just stunned that this is a 1.5. So I'm kind of half expecting some really awful things to come out of this. So what we're going to do is I'll get the scalpel here, and we'll take it out of the inner well. Okay, so I've got our scalpel here. What we want to do is find an area that is best for slicing. In this particular case, it looks like the bottom here. So I'm going to very carefully, and always use a nice new scalpel blade and try not to slip. Okay. Now this is the tricky part. We want to slice it without messing the back of the book up. Okay. Now I'm already seeing like little pieces like right here popping out. So brittle pages are usually a sign of high acidity in the book. That's why they're brittle. The book actually kind of decomposes at a certain point. Okay, so we got this. So now I'm going to slice this lip off, and we're just going to slide the book out. There we go. And I'll just fold this slightly, and we have the book here, and out it comes. Okay, so the slab and the inner well go off to the recycling bin. Now let me lower the camera here and we'll take a close-up look. Okay, so this book looks really amazing. I'm just blown away that this would be a 1.5. Now they take away a lot because of brittle pages, but let's take a look. We're going to be very gentle with this because we don't want to lose anything. Okay, so let me get some white paper, and I'm going to lay that down as a background so you can really see the contrast and the color. Okay, so I put the white paper out as the digital camera has a hard time really giving you the actual colors. So I'm not going to unfold this. I mean, it really looks quite amazing. Now this is an extremely brown book. It's very tan, which they are calling very brittle. I'm looking at the spine here, and everything looks to be intact. I do see that the pages are split up to the lower spine here, or lower staple, I should say. And yes, it looks like every single one of them. So I think our plan of action here is going to be, I see some tears here. Deacidification. So that is going to be, check that out. That is pretty cool. Submariner number 1. Our plan of action is to deacidify everything. I'd say all this is completely split. Yeah, take a look at this. The entire book. The whole thing, 100%, every single page is split. So what we're going to do here is deacidify everything. We'll do everything together. Then we're going to rejoin the pages. These are clean breaks. I don't see a lot of pieces like this. So I think everything's going to fit together really nicely. And if that's the case, we're going to use Japanese paper. And we're going to join every single wrap, and then we'll put it all back together and cross our fingers and see what it comes back as. So one thing I noticed, let me set these pages aside here. I wanted to hold this book up for you. Now these staples, for being a book of this age, look at that. Beautiful. Nice and shiny. Awesome. The colors of this book look fantastic. Yeah, I think we can definitely make an improvement conserving this book, and I think it'll look wonderful when it's done. Okay, so it wasn't a big stretch to get the pages out, obviously. They're in a stack here, and that's literally what it is. You can see right here, every single one of these wraps is in 2 pieces. So It's a full book. I've got the staples here. They're still actually in the cover. So we made our tape here. We're going to take the staples out. We're going to keep the correct orientation. So very gently here, I'm going to push these through. Ever so careful because we don't want to tear this cover. The cover looks gorgeous. Okay, so there's the top staple. Just trying to be very careful here. I'll rotate these up and through like that. All right. Okay, so we'll take this and we'll slide it in here into the back. And let's take a look at this before we put everything in the bag. So we've got a nice, really creamy color. I've got some residue here along the side. I'm not sure exactly what it is. This book, the spine, and everything looks amazing. It's like it's a brand new cover. I mean, it's got squared corners. Everything looks beautiful on this cover. So I don't think we're gonna have to do anything to this cover. We'll deacidify it. We'll give it a light wash. We'll flatten it out. Then we'll recorrect the spine here because it did have a slight spine roll to it, and we can see that here on the edge of the cover, ever so slightly. That's maybe 3/16 of an inch. Okay, so let's take a look at the main project. So I don't have my OWL card, but I could safely tell you this does fall under brittle pages. So let's take a look at just this front page, which should match up just fine with this very last page. So what's going to happen when we do these pages, we're going to do them together. I'll match everything up so we don't screw it all up, and which is easy to do. This has got a slight lip where it broke. Let's hold this up, and you can see it right there. But all in all, this looks like a very clean break in this book. You could just see where the staple holes are blown out. That paper came off in pieces. So we'll deacidify this. We'll pull the acids out. That should give it a little bit of less brittleness. And then we'll use a strip of cream-colored Japanese paper and methyl cellulose, and we'll rejoin everything. Okay, so we've got our pieces here in the tray. Now, I've got a piece of Polytex underneath. We always want to keep that down there, and we're going to basically make a sandwich out of this. So, get everything lined up a little bit. We'll bring in our second sheet of Polytex. So, here is our calcium hydroxide. It's a 25% solution. The suds you see in it is a surfactant. That is Triton X100. So we're going to go ahead and get this spread out. This will help where I can get those little lips that are broken folded down flat again. Just getting everything wet. Remember, this is a very brittle book. It's full of acids. And what we're doing here with the calcium hydroxide is actually deacidifying the wrap. So once you get that all done, everything is looking really good here. So we'll get this dried, and once we do that, then we can start working on putting it back together. these little edges, I just want to make sure everything is folding flat, and it is. So I'll put this back over across the top. And now what we want to do is just start agitating a little bit. And I'll just hold this down with my thumbs in the tray. In case you're wondering what the tray is, that is actually a serving tray from Walmart, and I just covered up the handholds with tape. So I'm a low-cost guy. I try not to spend too much on these projects. Okay, we'll let this sit and we'll come back. Okay, so the first wrap is done. It's been washed. It's been deacidified. And what I wanted to show you here, this is just the front page, and as you know, they're completely split. So I got page 1 here, and the following page right behind it is still original. But I wanted you to see the difference. So this is deacidified. This is still original. It's just full of that acid. That's why we get this ugly, kind of a yellowish brown color in the paper. So what we're going to do here is, let me scoot this over here. So we're going to take this, and I'm going to move this over here. Let's take this out of the way for the time being. And let's bring over the related wrap, or the related page. So these have been pressed flat. What we have here is, it does appear to be a clean break. There's a couple of tears like this one right here. But what we can do here, and I'll demonstrate, is, and that little residue is from the previous page, the one that still needs to be worked on. So this appears to be a really, really clean break. This is not a candidate for leaf casting, in case you were wondering. When we have a clean break like this is better off being a Japanese paper candidate. So I'm just kind of maneuvering this in. So the obvious thing you can see is staple holes here and here. They're blown out, obviously. They fell apart, disintegrated. We do have a piece out here. So what we're going to do is I talk about the Japanese paper. This is it right here. So this is 5 grams per square meter. It's very feathery light. And what we're going to do is this. We're going to lay it down over here, and we're going to rejoin this wrap. Basically, this is quite strong. We're going to use methyl cellulose on this because it makes for a good blend. This is a tan-colored Japanese paper, Tengujo, and with the methyl cellulose, it should make a nice, clean bond. It'll look nice. Right here where the staple hole is, I'm going to put an additional smaller piece over here, just a reinforcement piece, and the same over here. Now, you're wondering, down here, am I going to fill this in? No, because what we're doing is affecting the structure of the book, and that's what we want. CGC could, if they see this in here as fill, then that could be a whole new issue. Could I leaf cast a small section? Yeah, I probably could. But I don't think it's really necessary in this case. Okay, so our two halves are aligned, and we've sufficiently dampened them. So what we're going to do here is pull this back, and this is our work area. So everything's been put together as best I could. We do have a little bit of a gap here, which I'm not too worried about. Remember, this is all about making this structurally sound. So the first thing we're going to do here is, this is methyl cellulose. It's 100%. I did not water it down with anything because I'm looking for a very strong bond. So I'm just going to coat this midsection. This will help the Japanese paper bond with the pulp in the wraps. And methyl cellulose is a item that is used in the paper making process. And what we're doing here, we are going after conserve grade. So this is not like tape or anything like that. This is just something that is completely acceptable in the conservation business. If this is your first time seeing me do one of these videos. Okay, so gently lower this down over the top. Oops. And this is quite strong once it's bonded. Okay, so we've covered the page or the gap. So what we do with methylcellulose now is we work our way out from the interior part. So this helps to blend those feathery edges into the paper. So after we're done here, this will be pressed between blotters. And I use blotters here at the channel. I confess I used to use the heat press to accelerate the drying process. I don't do that anymore because it does tend to make the bonds a little bit weaker, I've found. I've had leaf casting pop out. So now what I do is use the blotters. I change them out. I do put them in a press of my own design. And some of you know looking at my channel, I do invent a lot of the equipment that I use. You know, I am technically a hobbyist. I'm not a professional. And so as a hobbyist, I really don't feel like spending $10,000 on a special machine to do this kind of work. Okay, so we've got that now. And what I'm going to do here is as I said before, I'm going to place an extra support over the staple hole. So I get this stuff out my tweezers. And we'll lay this right over the top. That is just an extra thickness. This is the first wrap. In case you're wondering, this is the back side of the wrap. So, and since we have a little bit of a gap here because of just the way the paper snapped off, we have some missing sections in here. I'm going to go ahead and do a full length backup on top of this. So I'm just going to go ahead and lay this down right here. And we'll just lay this down. This is just strictly for reinforcement. We'll still have our flexibility in the hinged areas. Okay, so now we're ready to cover this back up. I'll just gently roll this over. Now, this is all of our glued space in here. So what I'm going to do is just mist this. And I want to make sure that this glue, this methyl cellulose, is smooth and into the areas where it needs to be. So I'm not pressing hard. This is just very light touching, really, is basically what it is. And I'm just smoothing out any unevenness that I feel. It's kind of like a little squeegee type of thing. Things like that. So now let's take a little bit of paper towel here. And I'm just going to soak up any of this excess moisture before we put it between the blotters. Okay, so I think we're ready to go between the blotters. So we'll do that, and then I'll come back here after everything's done. Okay, so it's out of the press now. So what we're going to do is release the Polytex, and we just use our spatula. And we come in here, and we just gently run it down the length. We are working through the back side. So that releases it there. And now we'll flip it over. And we just come in here in the middle and work our way down this direction. And again, back up. And like I always say, that the methylcellulose does not like to stick to the Polytex. So now I'll give this a quick trim here. And what I want to do is line up this one edge, this bottom edge. One thing I want you to observe too is these, comic books are folded when they're trimmed. So this edge right here, if I put in corner to corner, you notice there's a large area right here. That's because of the fold and the way it was cut when it was trimmed. Okay, let's turn this around. And what I'm going to do here is, again, we line up the top edge with our straight edge, find our gap, slice there, come here, slice it this way, and remove the piece. All right, so we do have a couple of small tears that did appear right here at the bottom, and there's a tear here, and I spotted another one over right here at the top, right there. So anyway, okay, and so it's back in one piece, and it's very flexible. We've taken the acid out, so once we get this moist and we'll shape it, it'll be back in one piece. But that's what we do. That's how we put it together. Now, I just have 15 more wraps to go. If you liked today's video, please give a thumbs up and subscribe. That way you can get a notification when I have a new video coming out or a follow-up to this one.